So you clicked on this video because you want to know what the top 5 mistakes are that buyers make when purchasing a home. Well, stay tuned because I'm going to break it down for you. Hi, it's Laura Griffin with Loudoun Living at Pearson Smith Realty. Some of you also know me as the Loudoun Mom. I'm a top-selling real estate agent here in the Loudoun County area, and I'm going to tell you what the top 5 mistakes that buyers make. And stay to the end because I'm going to share one little secret that most of you don't know. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button below. And if you have any questions about buying or selling real estate in the Loudoun County or Northern Virginia area, call me at the number above or email me at this link below. So let's dive into it. So number 1 is do your homework. I get a lot of clients who are relocating to the area or maybe have never been to Loudoun County. And so doing your homework ahead of time will really help us be successful in finding a house for you. And what do I mean by that? Well, my job is to help you identify where you want to be and help you research prices of homes and things like that. But doing your research ahead of time really helps narrow it down. Loudoun County in Northern Virginia, it's a big area. There's lots of counties, there's lots of cities. And so really kind of breaking it down on where you want to be can be helpful because sometimes I have clients who are looking in Sterling, but they also want to go up to Purcellville, which can be sometimes a 45-minute to an hour commute. So that's a big difference between Western Loudoun and more like Eastern Loudoun. Or they want to go over to Aldie, which is in Southern, we call it Dulles South, the south side. So really kind of looking at schools. There's a couple websites that you can go to. I can link them below, like greatschools.com, Loudoun County websites. There's also behind the score website that'll break down schools. I also say look at the crime statistics for that area, sex offender registries. Look at the different HOA's websites. They have a lot of information readily available to you. What does the HOA include? Are there pools? Are there parks? Are there events? Are there swim teams? Are there clubs? Are they amenity rich? And you want to have a ton of amenities and pay a little bit more of a higher HOA? Or do you want a little tiny HOA where maybe it just includes trash or snow removal, trash removal, things like that? Or do you want to live in no HOA? There are a handful, but not very many in our area. Also researching just the area. Do you want to be a stone's throw away from a shopping center or a grocery store? Do you want to drive 15 or 20 minutes? Really looking at Google Map or any of the mapping programs and kind of identifying the close proximity to something. For me, I don't mind driving 10, 15 minutes is my maximum to a grocery store. But I have some clients like, nope, I want to be able to walk to a town center. I want to go grab an ice cream, go grab dinner, go pick up some groceries, and then walk home. So there's different, everybody's kind of got their own preferences, but doing your homework to identify an area that you want to be really helps us narrow down our focus. So we're not looking here and there and everywhere. We're really kind of honing in. And that way you don't miss an opportunity. So often I have clients who say, oh, we just missed our dream house. We didn't know it was available, or we didn't think to look there. But really kind of going through this little bit of homework ahead of time of schools, neighborhoods, crime statistics. Drive the neighborhoods on the weekends. I highly recommend that. Or on a weekday. And sometimes I say, hey, if you see someone out walking their dog or at the park, ask them, what do you think of this community? When my husband and I bought homes in the past, we've done the same thing, and people are always willing to give you information. When I'm out with a client and I see someone walking their dog across the street, I say, just go ask them. Nobody cares. They will definitely help you out and tell you what they love and what they don't love about that community. So narrowing down your search, figuring out a neighborhood, I would say a zip code. So narrow down a zip code and then kind of finite a neighborhood or maybe 2 or 3 neighborhoods within that zip code that you would want to be in, because that will really help you narrow down your search and make you successful. So number 2, this is pre-approval. And I'm not talking about a pre-approval letter that you might get when you just put in your information online. I make X amount of money, I have X amount of expenses, here's my credit score, and it just generates a number for you. That's not what we're asking. What we're saying is speak to a loan officer. I've got 3 that I work with. Be happy to recommend them. I have multiples for one very specific reason. Each one of them have different loan products. So if someone's a first-time home buyer and they want to use the VHDA program, which is a grant program through the state, because maybe they need some down payment assistance or closing cost assistance in the form of a grant, I have a lender who can do that. I've got one lender that's more well-versed in VA loans. If you're a veteran like my husband and our family uses our VA loan benefit, then this lender is, I feel, better suited for that client. I have other lenders who also can do bridge loans. If you've got a house to sell and you'd rather buy the new house first and sell the old or your current house after the fact, I've got a lender who's got a couple different loan options that can help you bridge that gap and make that transaction possible for you. So by having multiple loan officers, I can help you with that. But getting a pre-approval where you're actually filling out the 1003, and I know it looks daunting, right? And especially if you're a first-time home buyer or you've never done this or it's been a couple of years, it looks long. I guarantee you, if you have all your information readily available, I would say 10, 20, maybe 15 minutes or so, but you're gonna need pay stubs, you need your taxes and your W-2s, you'll need to send those in, and you'll need bank statements as well. So if you've got, $50,000 in a savings account, they're gonna wanna see that you have cash reserves. And really speaking to the loan officer. The other reason I say fill out the loan application, turn in the documents, and speak to the loan officer is in some cases, they may recommend a loan product to you that you didn't know about. They can give you some options. Sometimes the cheapest rate isn't always the best situation for you. And it depends on your situation. Like sometimes this is just a stepping stone for me. I'll just be in the house for 2 or 3 years and then I want to buy a new one. So kind of figuring out and working that partnership with them is so critical. The other reason why a pre-approval is so important is I actually talked to a client today. They were pre-approved $850,000. They're not comfortable with that payment. They want to buy in the $650,000 range. Those are completely different ranges, and you get completely different products for that. You can get a larger single family for $850,000 versus they're looking at a bigger townhome or potentially a smaller single family at the $650,000 range, depending on what zip code we're looking in. So really knowing not just what you're pre-approved for, but where are you comfortable on your payment. The other reason why this is so important is we need a letter before we'll write an offer for anybody. And I don't show houses until we have the pre-approval letter, because you may think you're pre-approved for $650,000, but we dive into it and maybe you're only approved for $600,000. That's going to change our search dramatically. So really having that is so critical. The other reason that we need it is when we write the offers, we do have to turn it in, but also having that relationship with a loan officer is so critical because they're going to be our partner. There's it's 3 of us. It's the 3 amigos going through this transaction. And then I guess you throw title in. So really there's 4 partners in this. So I'm helping with you negotiate the contract, finding the house. The loan officer is doing all the back end work of getting the house approved, going through the loan process, ordering the appraisal, getting all the necessary paperwork to complete the loan. And the title company is doing all the other little pieces of doing the title search and doing the survey and tidying up all those other loose ends. So really we have to work together. But also the loan officer is so important because a lot of times I've won offers because the loan officer has called the list agent. Maybe they have a relationship with that list agent. Maybe they've worked with them before, or maybe they've worked with their company before. And they can leverage that relationship to get you selected for the house, because a lot of times you're competing with other people. So having that little bit of an advantage by using a local lender who maybe has worked with that list agent before, it really helps sweeten the deal. So the number 2 thing is getting pre-approved. So the third mistake that I see a lot of buyers make is they say, I'm going to work with the list agent. I don't need you as a buyer's agent. I can just find a house on the weekends, going to open houses, and I'll just work with the list agent. And the problem with that is going to open houses, I highly recommend it. It's a great job to do your research, identify neighborhoods you like. You can see some of the floor plans that neighborhood has, because more often than not, there's only a handful of floor plans, unless there was a ton of builders like in Brambleton where it's a master plan. But it can really help you identify where you want to be. But the problem is the list agent has a fiduciary duty to the seller. So what does that mean? The list agent has a duty to that seller to do what's in their best interest. They do not have your best interest in mind as a buyer. Their job is to the seller. Their job is to sell the house as quick as possible for the highest dollar amount and to represent the seller they do not have that fiduciary duty to you as a buyer. And some people, I'm going to save money. Not really. You don't pay the buyer's agent. The seller pays the buyer's agent's commission. So by having someone on your side and as a fiduciary to you, it's very beneficial versus having the list agent. So you're not really saving money. They're still being paid by the seller, but you have someone on your side. Because I will tell you, something's going to go wrong. There's going to be an issue. There's going to be a hiccup, whether it's an issue with title, an issue with a home inspection, an appraisal. I just had an issue on a new construction home where there was a mistake that the builder made on a contract, and they were trying to give my client a few $1,000 increase, 6 months later. And by going to bat for the client, we were able to say, no, we're not paying this extra dollar amount. That's not in my client's best interest. But if I wasn't there, they probably would have a much harder uphill battle. But me leveraging my brokerage and my brokerage relationship with that builder, I was able to get that money down and not charge it to the client, and the builder just eats the cost. So having someone in your corner battling for you is so important. The other reason is we can recommend vendors to you, whether it's a lender, a title company, or an a termite inspector, a home inspector, or someone. Maybe you say, hey, this house is, all tan and yellow inside. I really hate the paint colors. Do you have someone? Absolutely. We can leverage relationships that we have to help you get someone in there to possibly paint the house as soon as you move in. Also, title company relationships are so important, having our relationship with other title companies. There may be little hiccups. I've had some issues lately with title where maybe the seller's passed away and there's some issues. But by having someone on your side advocating for you and what's best for you, we were able to kind of get the problem taken care of versus using the seller's agent, the seller's title company, everyone on the seller's side who's advocating for the seller, not advocating for you as the buyer. So having your own representation and not going through the list agent as a dual agent is always the best thing for you as a buyer. So that brings us to number 4. And the number 4 mistake that buyers make is they fall in love with the house. And I say this all the time. Buying a new house is like online dating. So you're going to go through all these profiles on like Match.com, which is Realtor.com, Zillow, or Redfin. And you're searching through all these pictures and you're swiping and you hit the heart button. And it's so hard to not fall in love with a house, either online or when you go to see it. But don't let emotions drive this. You need to really take a step back and make sure that does it financially fit our needs? Does it fit our spatial needs? Is it where we want to be? Could we see ourselves living here for a few years? I sometimes will make clients sound so weird. Sit on the living room couch or family room couch and sit there. Like, with this where you want to put your TV? Does this make sense? Is this enough room? Do you need a playroom? All those things. But don't fall in love with the house before it's a done deal. Because too often and not, you fall in love with the house, we write the contract, and maybe there's 20 other contracts. And you didn't get this one because maybe you were all beat out by an all cash offer, or maybe the seller knew somebody, a neighbor wanted to buy the house, or things like that happen. Or maybe the list agent represented the buyer and so you got pushed out or something like that. So don't fall in love until it's a done deal. The other piece that I recommend is I sell a lot of houses with clients who have young children. I have young kids myself, a lot of my clients do, and it's so hard not to bring the kids to the showings, and I get it. But try to do it when the kids are at school, drop them off with grandma, a babysitter. Too often than not, I'll see clients take their children around with them. And, oh, isn't this a beautiful room? Wouldn't this be a great room for you? It's pink, and going through all this stuff, and the kids starting to envision all their stuff in this pink room, and the backyard's got this beautiful play set, and they're just falling in love with it. And they don't get that house, or something happens with financing, or a number of things can happen. And then the kids get upset. You're upset because you promised your kids they would have this pink room, and it just is a snowball effect. So don't fall in love with the house until it's a done deal. You're ratified under contract. Maybe you've gotten through some of your inspections and things like that. And don't bring the kids to see the house until it's kind of down the road. So maybe you're clear to close on the financing. Everything's kind of a done deal. Maybe we're a week out from closing, something like that. They can come to the final walkthrough or the day of closing, or start showing them pictures of the house to get them mentally ready. But I think too often we fall in love with the house before the house is ours, and it really makes it hard later. Because I see too often clients will say, oh, the first house was just the best, and they can't get past it to move forward and find the right house. And it's a hard mental block to get through, but it's really important. And when the first one slips away, it's just like the wrong guy slipped out of your hand. You can't dwell on it. There will be a next one. There will be a next house. You will find a house, I promise. We will find a house to marry. It does happen, but you can't always go back to, oh, the first one was the best one and all that stuff. So number 5, I promised you 5, is to not skip a house because of the photos. So often, like I said, buying a house is like online dating, right? And you're swiping through and you're like, oh, this one's got some weird paint and every room's a different color and it's not really the best pictures, and the agent is using the cell phone and they're just focusing on weird things and can't really see the house. You don't know how it fits. If it's in a neighborhood or area you really want to be in, just go see it. It's okay. I tell everyone, how I met my husband is I just decided I was going to go on every person who asked me out on a date. I would just go, didn't matter, and I found the right one. It's the same with houses. Just go on a whole bunch of first dates until you find the one that matches. And just because it needs a little bit of a makeover, don't discount it. So often clients will discount a house because it's not the perfect one, or it's not as pretty, or the photos are really bad. But don't judge a book by its cover. Sometimes you can find a hidden gem in the ugly houses. And you can always repaint, you can always rip out the carpet, you can always change the floor, and you can always redo a kitchen if you have it in your budget, or paint, or do a little cosmetic updates. And also sometimes the photos are just really bad. I've been in one house and I'll tell you, the photos were really bad. Like, it was iPhone, which is why I hire photographers to do all my listings, but it was taken with an iPhone and you could see the person in all the bathroom mirrors, and the phone was kind of down, so you really couldn't see the whole room. They were just really bad photos. And I think one had a picture of their foot. It was just really bad. And I agree. Like, if I was looking for a house and I didn't know better, I'd probably skip that one. It's crazy. But it ended up being the client's dream house, and the photos did not do it justice. It was a really pretty house, but the photos were kind of glazy and they were just weird, and it ended up being the dream house. So don't judge a book by its cover, and don't discount a house because of the really bad photos. That is one of the biggest mistakes I think buyers make, because you can find your dream house even if it's a little ugly in the photos. So I promised you a bonus, right? So the bonus is don't overpay for the house. I know right now we're still having multiple offers, and we're still having some bidding wars here in Northern Virginia and in Loudoun County, but know where your breaking point is. And sometimes it's not worth winning the war. I take emotion out of it and find out what your stopping point is. Are you comfortable with going over list price? Are you not comfortable? Can we wait for the next house? How would you feel if you didn't get this house? That really tells us where we need to be. And sometimes I will tell you, we'll put the strongest offer in and we will go where we need to be. And I've had some where another buyer went $100,000 over list price for this house. And it was like, you know what? That's fine. They really wanted this house, and they didn't care if they were overpaying, and they didn't care if it didn't appraise. They wanted this house, and they won the war. And it's okay. We can always get the next one. So don't overpay. Don't let emotions get into it. Yes, are we still having bidding wars? Yes. Are we still having to go a little bit over list price? In some cases, yes. But don't get so wrapped up into this, I have to win, and I'm just going to go it no matter the cost, because you don't want to end up overpaying for the house. And you don't want to make a decision where your appraisal comes in really short either, and you have to make up the difference. On that one, I don't know. The client might have had to go $100,000 over list price and had to maybe make up the difference. I don't know, but they really wanted that house, and their buyer's agent let them go all in. Let them go all in. It's okay. But sometimes it's not worth it to overpay for a house, because the next one will come. I promise you it will. And it'll be just as good, and you'll be just as excited about the one you lost. So let's break it down for you. The first one is do your homework, identify the area. Don't have a big field of an hour's drive. Number 2, get your pre-approval. Number 3, don't use the list agent to buy your house. It's a mistake, and they don't have a fiduciary duty to you. Number 4, don't fall in love with the house and get emotional about it. There will be another one. Number 5, don't skip the house because they have really bad photos. And the bonus is don't overpay for the house. So I'm Laura Griffin. I'm with Loudoun Living at Pearson Smith Realty. I am your resource for anything Loudoun County. If you have any questions about buying, selling, or renting in the Loudoun County area or relocating to the area, I'd be happy to be a resource for you. My phone number is right here. 571-354-7325, and my email is right here. And I hope you enjoyed this video on mistakes to avoid that buyers make.